Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us again. It's Tony Jones here with Rebel Financial, and today we are joined by Michael Maher, who started a company, Cartology, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. So thanks for joining us, Michael.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tony. I really appreciate it.
So in a nutshell, what Cartology is a business that helps people, consults with people to be more effective sellers on Amazon and branching out into Walmart at this point, and we could get more into that. As I talked about before, I just want to learn, tell me a little bit about your progression. I know you said you started out in 2010, I think e-commerce, and how that progressed into this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I kind of fell into entrepreneurship. I just hated the job I was at, like, a lot of people. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to, do something to.
What were you doing?
I was managing a store at a Starbucks, and
Okay.
up to getting up to that manager point, I'd had a good experience, but being in that role, there wasn't a lot of. I had a great boss at the time, but then she left and had another boss take over, and just kind of made my life miserable, and felt like I wasn't getting the support I needed, and I just thought, man, there's got to be something better than this. And I didn't really up to that point know what I wanted to do. I graduated college, but my major was Asian studies. My whole goal was just to get out of school. So I had already sold products on eBay. I'm a musician, and I'd been selling music equipment. I had a friend who had started an e-commerce business, buying stuff in bulk and reselling on eBay, and he eventually launched on Amazon, and he really helped me get started. So I did kind of a very traditional, took a couple $1,000s and went to a trade show in Vegas, purchased product, did some research beforehand, but purchased product, and then started selling on eBay while I was working that full-time job, and was able to grow it over the next year, and then left that job to pursue entrepreneurship full time, and was able to launch on Amazon, and that really started huge growth in the company. I ran that for about 6 years, and was able to get it up to close to $400,000. So it was, across multiple channels. I was really excited about that. And in 2015, Amazon opened up their entire platform to sellers from China. And that's all well and good. But the issue for me was, now these manufacturers that were selling to me were selling direct to consumers. Mm-hmm. They weren't providing the same support. They didn't have quite the understanding of branding, but the price was way, way better. And so people started purchasing that. And that really hit me hard that year. And I had to quickly pivot and say, what can I do? Am I going to try and, get cash and put it into the business, or do I need to pivot? And I decided I need to pivot. And so I turned into more of a consultant and freelancer, and quickly realized it was very general e-commerce, but I quickly realized, wow, there's a big demand for Amazon services. I like it. I like the platform and I understand it. So I really went there and leaned into that. And then probably, maybe a couple months in to doing that, I realized, wow, this demand is so big. If I really want to get a hold of it, I'm going to have to scale. And so I just started bringing people in under me, and, created systems and said, hey, here's how you, we're going to rewrite content. Here's what you do for this. Here's what you do for this advertising thing. And just went with it and developed into the team that I have today.
Yeah, cool. And we'll see that, because I do want to show folks the website, but it's awesome how it's spread out, what we can do today with the internet, and with, you can be in contact with people all over. So that's great. Yeah. So let's talk about the people you help then. Is there a particular, does somebody have to have a particular product for you to work effectively with them, or just, I'll leave it at that. Is there any type of, product that you like working best with?
We will take anybody, and there are a couple different kinds of sellers on Amazon. That's what Amazon calls their third-party side, which is, when you basically use their site to sell your products, and Amazon can fulfill the item. It's on consignment, but there are brands that are doing, 10, 20 million on consignment. So, it's not like a small, I hear consignment, I think kind of like a consignment shop. Mm-hmm. But the way that Amazon runs it, there's huge potential. They also have a wholesale kind of traditional retail platform that's their first party side. So they still buy products from brands and then sell them. And we help some of those brands as well. But really, there are the resellers. So like I started out doing, they're purchasing products wholesale and selling them. You've got private label people who are taking products that are already in the market and kind of putting their brand on them and then selling them. So they're not really creating something new. And then there are brands, and that could range from a small CPG company, a company that's like, hey, we want a vegan snack food, and we don't see that in the market, so we're going to create that need there, up to big CPG companies like Procter and Gamble, Kimberly Clark, Johnson and Johnson are selling their products on there. So there's a whole gambit of people that are on there. We're working with those brands. Now we're actually going out and prospecting. We are looking at a couple categories. We're looking at CPG products. We're looking at food and beverage. We're looking at sporting goods, some outdoor stuff. We're looking at supplements, or definitely in the health and personal care fields. But we really will take anybody on if we feel like they got to have a strong brand. That's the most important thing for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And it's not, I assume when somebody is thinking about doing this, getting online and on Amazon and selling something, it's not, there's no too early to get a hold of you, correct?
Oh yeah. I mean, the sooner the better. And we're
Yeah.
at least able to frame what the opportunity is on Amazon. We work with brands that are already on Amazon and they're realizing, okay, we know there's more here and we need help. We can't quite access that additional cap or that additional revenue that's there. We'll also take brands that have done nothing on Amazon and actually launch them on the site. There's a little bit different process, but we still have some of the same steps: content creation, working out logistics, advertising, all that stuff.
Okay. I mean, how raw could somebody be when coming to you? I mean, let's just say I'm somebody who said, I've got this great idea to sell this pen, but I know nothing more than that. I mean, can you help them in all those different stages of what they need to do to get set up?
So we will, if someone's like, hey, I have this product idea, we can help give them a better understanding of how Amazon works. And from that point, I'd say, hey, go and figure out what your product costs are going to be, determine what your final product is, so you have a better understanding of the uniqueness of your product in the market. And we can determine some costs and other things like that with some internal calculators that Amazon has. And then it's, hey, do you have a brand story behind it? I had a call with someone recently, and they had a really great idea for something on Amazon. And I said, they didn't have a brand though. They've been doing wholesale, and so they're looking to get into retail. I said, you're going to have to come up with a really strong brand, and we can provide you with referrals to people that we work with, because we don't create your brand. We can help you take your brand and articulate it properly on Amazon, but we really want you to have a solid brand story. So if you said, hey, we actually have a client who sells pens. This pen right here is one of my favorite pens. It's like $40. I mean, it's not a cheap pen, but it's really heavy, high quality. We help launch them on Amazon. The name of the brand's Everyman. It's like, very minimalist type stuff, typically targeted at men, but they've started to target women as well. And they already came to us with a really established brand. That's what we're ultimately looking for.
But like you said, though, you're able to guide people in different directions if they are lacking in one area or another. And I don't think most people realize how valuable branding can be. Oftentimes they think they just come up with a great idea and it's going to sell itself, but branding's a huge part of it. So,
or just people think branding is like logo and color scheme, and that's an important piece of the puzzle. It tells people how they should feel about the brand. You want it to evoke an emotional response, but the story that's behind it is really the key thing. And that's what brands should ultimately be taking the time to do, is develop that voice.
Yeah. When people come to you, what are some of the things they haven't thought about? And I'm not talking about the branding, but things that you can help them. I mean, what are they lacking in their knowledge of the system? One
of the biggest things that we see, there's a couple things. One is just visibility. Someone will list a product and say, I'm not seeing it show up when I search. Let's say you're selling pens. When I search pen, it's not showing up. Well, there's a reason why it's not showing up. If you haven't had any sales, it's less likely to show up on the first page, because Amazon's algorithm wants to see the whole goal. I think if you tie everything back to Amazon's main tenets, that's helps you to better understand the marketplace. And one of those is, of course, the customer comes first, very, very customer oriented, but product selection is one of the things that Amazon wants to see. So they like seeing a good variety of stuff, but they also want people to have an easy time purchasing stuff on the site. So that's something that factors into their algorithm. What stuff that's previously sold, how is the product rated? Now, within the past year or two, they've even adjusted their algorithm to factor in location. So if you're in California and you're looking for this pen, but there's another pen that's closer in the region so that it could ship to you in a quicker amount of time, Amazon will prefer that in their algorithm. So the first thing is really visibility. People just don't know, how do we get our products seen? How do we get them sold? And then the second piece, it seems very logical, but when you're so focused on the growth aspect of things, you forget this. And it's that as you grow, you're going to need a lot more capital to keep up with the demand for inventory. And a lot of people don't factor that into growth. They're thinking, get us all the sales. We can get you the sales. I mean, that's not the difficult part. It's really lining up with your target audience and getting into a place where you're profitable. A lot of people can grow a 7-8 figure business, and that sounds cool, but really knowing what your costs are and becoming profitable, it's a totally different story.
Yeah. And I've seen, that goes in all aspects of business, right? So, but it's great that
you can appreciate that as a financial company. Profitability is super important.
Yeah. So to get in there. So, all right, well, let's do this. And well, I was going to ask you one more thing, and then we'll switch to the website. If somebody comes to you and they're having success, they will work with you for an ongoing period, right? I mean, it's not just information to get them going, and once they get going, they're on their own. So you provide long-term relationship help for them.
That's precisely it. We're working on ways that if someone maybe can't afford the service initially, where we could say, hey, we'll charge you this much to set everything up for you. You can run it, and then we'll consult you, on a monthly basis, give you so much time. But really what we're after is that service agency aspect where we're running and managing the channel entirely for you. All you have to focus on is, financials of like, do we have the money to get more inventory? We'll talk with you about budgets and stuff, but yeah, we're really taking over and managing that channel for you so that you don't have to worry about any of that. And it's definitely ongoing. A lot of people think it's set it and forget it, and it's not at all. It's such a dynamic marketplace. You have to stay on top of things.
Yeah. And I know, if it's anything like a regular search, the search is, or it's just kind of like its own embedded search engine, right? You've got to know how to get to the top of the list and do those things. So let me ask you, as a consumer, you've probably trained yourself to keep looking through pages if you have an interest in something, because it could be a very good product that's just not branding well.
Yeah. And if, I've had people reach out to me like, I'm trying to find this specific thing. And I will tell them, you have to, when you really want to find something particular, you have to get more specific in what you're searching. Yeah. So if my dad was looking for a special kind of receiver for like a record player. And he's like, I'm looking this up and I'm not able to find it. And so I walked him through, like, you're going to have to add these additional keywords to really, really hone in, because otherwise you're going to just search through a bunch of pages. And that's really one of the things that Amazon has trained even myself, consumers, well on, is if you search something and you don't really find it on the first page, you try a different search. And most people don't go, I've heard up to 90% don't go past the first page. So if you're not getting on the first page, you got to get there somehow. And the artificial means of doing that is through advertising.
Okay. Do you in any capacity have a direct relationship with Amazon?
So we've begun to establish a relationship there. Amazon knows that service providers are a part of their ecosystem. There are a lot of SaaS companies that are plugged into Amazon and they've got connections to their API. Amazon has this whole developers council where they'll consult with a couple companies that they feel are really reputable. And so we work with some of those companies. I have started to make connections internally at Amazon, and they only go so far. Mm-hmm. The way that Jeff Bezos designed Amazon was every single department is siloed so that they would compete against each other and make the company better. And so I do believe that's helped. It's also hurt the sellers, because you go to someone in advertising and you say, we've got an issue with our catalog. They're like, okay, I don't know who to connect you with. And it's just kind of leave it at that. So you have to really be proactive and go and find someone. Fortunately, there are things like LinkedIn. Fortunately, there are companies that are part of a developers council that will connect us with someone, and I can start to build a relationship there. And so we've had some issues with clients like trying to sign up on an account. And so I've been able to reach out to someone and say, we're getting this issue, we're getting this error. This guy connected me with someone else and he's been able to help us. So building those relationships are important, but keeping them and maintaining them is even more important because people move around really quickly.
Right. So, okay, well, cool. All right, well, let's go to your website here and then we can work our way through this. So you can see that, okay, correct?
Yep, looks great to me.
Okay, so thinkcartology.com. So easy enough to go to, right? So we really talked about, who you were and stuff. What I like here is, I said this earlier, but I like looking at your team just because, Biloxi, Mississippi, Cincinnati, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Spain, Italy, Romania. I mean, and then you even have to put USA in here because, most people are all around. Do you have a lot of international clients as well?
Most of our clients are based in the US, Canada, or the UK.
Okay.
We don't have a ton of brands that are outside of that. There are additional marketplaces that we're servicing, like UK, anything in the EU, France, Germany, Spain, Italy. We're even reaching out to Singapore, Australia. So those clients are still, predominantly based in the US, but they're starting to expand elsewhere. And we have consulted with some clients that are, maybe originally in the UK and they're looking to branch into the US, or Canada and they're looking to branch into the US.
Okay.
I'd say mostly US and Canada based.
Okay. We talked about, I mean, for anybody who's wondering if, you have the Let's Talk shop here, this is a way to contact you to have a conversation about it, to see if their product can make sense for what you guys do and whether you can help them.
Absolutely.
So I won't take, I want to keep that open to everybody. I mean, so, but what is interesting here is the services. Can you touch on these then a little bit and what, because most people aren't thinking about these things.
Yeah. So the total account management piece is I would say the foundation of what we do. It's managing that entire account. And as we've gone on, we've, developed some of these services even more, but really it's looking at the account. So what can we do? There's that market analysis piece where we go in and say, what's happening in the market with your current category. We'll look at, create strategy for your brand and say, hey, here's how we should position this. Here's what we're going to do when it comes to advertising. Here's what we're going to do with promotions, things like that. So that's that merchandising component. And then we just get going. And then we start looking at, the analytics and the reporting that we're getting to determine what's the next step. Should we cut advertising budget? Should we double it? Are we seeing enough conversions or, enough sales on the product at a high enough rate to really make something sustainable? And then once we feel like we've got a solid hold on someone in the .com space, then we'll start looking at .ca, .uk, .co.uk. And like you had mentioned earlier, we're now building out services for Walmart.com. We see that as really the next competitor. And so we're forging forward in that with our current clients and looking to, really bring that super public in marketing come Q3. Okay.
When you look at working with somebody, do you tell them, you need to have this much cash and, you want to be able to sell this much product per month to make this successful?
We'll typically talk about, what are your cost of goods? What's your price point? And we'll look at how much we're thinking of spending on advertising, because that will give us an idea of how many sales we'll drive. We can put a preliminary forecast together. And really, we don't get accurate data because we do use a lot of third-party companies that will give us data on Amazon. It's based on their algorithm, based on information they're scraping off the page and maybe any internal data that they have. But Amazon really gives you data on your product selling once you start selling and really once you start advertising. So from there, once we've got maybe a month under our belts to just see what happens with a preliminary advertising budget of, 3, 4, maybe 5,000, depending upon the market, then we can go and say, okay, here's what we're going to project out for the next year and then update that as we go along. But there definitely is a component of, do you have access to capital? Do you have access to advertising as well as when you advertise, you're going to get sales, and that's good. But do you have enough capital to supply the inventory, not just for those sales you're getting, but for the growth that you want to see? That's a common hiccup we see. And so we've paired up with some financing companies, some capital companies that are providing capital specifically for e-commerce companies. So we don't do that ourselves, but one of the ways that we can be extra valuable for the brands that we're taking on is by saying, hey, you need help with this? Well, we're going to connect you with this partner. It's no extra cost to you, but it's something that is going to be helpful.
Yeah. Just in us talking, you've talked about outsourcing some things to branding. You guys subscribe to people who help you with the analytics and then the capital. There's a lot of your relationships alone are what people don't understand they need to really make it successful. So that alone, I think, any business owner knows how valuable that can be. So, well, without going on too much longer, the one thing I like coming here, you got some blogs, but really, again, the contact, this is how you can get started, filling this out or, going through here just to reach out to you to get the ball rolling. Yeah. And just to schedule a little bit. And that's probably the best way. So once again, thinkcartology.com. It's nice, easy to navigate. So a great place to go to start to get the process started. So
yeah, I'm glad to hear. We try to make it just very simple, relay the message, and then the whole goal is to get people to contact us. So
okay. Well, listen, this has been great. I knowing that we would be speaking, it's opened my eyes a lot about this, but you've helped even clarify a lot more things. So I appreciate you taking the time. So thanks, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. And I would just highly encourage anyone, if you're interested, if you have a brand, don't hesitate to reach out to me. It doesn't cost anything to have a conversation, and we can at least hopefully point you in the right direction. If you're like, we know this is something we want to put on our roadmap, how do we even go about doing that? We want to establish those long-term relationships. So we're happy to help you get started off on the right foot.
Okay. No, when I hear people saying anything along the lines of what we talked about today, I'll be sure to do that as well. So
yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, anyway, thank you. Thanks everybody for joining us. Another Good Friday conversation. So we'll be back next week with another live broadcast. It'll be one of our audiobook reviews. So hopefully you can join us then as well. But thanks and have a great weekend, a great Mother's Day. We'll talk to you soon.